So we have notes here, so we can have like, I don't know, John needs to start with project X, and then Maria is sick, and then Juan is taking care of Maria's tasks for the day. Yeah, tomorrow is holidays. Something like that. It's a typical call when you're in a company, you know. So then you click here and summarize and send to Slack. So let's see if that works. So you can see that this is the summary, just as a UI alert, and then we click OK, and then we should get that on the Slack. So let's see here. So as you can see, we get the recap here. Hello guys, so today I'm going to explain you how to do a meeting recap automated. So basically, you will be taking notes in a Google Sheet, and then when you click here and meeting recap in this button here, it will send these notes to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is going to summarize, and then it's going to send that to Slack. You could send this to any platform that you want. For example, if you want to do a meeting recap and send that an email, right, to the team members, like that will work as well. But in this case, I'm going to do this meeting recap here, like for example, like this, so you can see here. So let's start from scratch, but before we do that, we need to do something. So I created this list here to give you a guide of what we're going to do today. So first we need to create a button. So basically it's this one here. And then we need to get the Slack webhook. We need to get a webhook from Slack, and then an API from OpenAI so we can interact with ChatGPT. And then we need to create two functions. One that is going to handle the summary and send a request to ChatGPT. And then we need another one that is going to get that information and send it to Slack. Okay, so let's do it. If we start from scratch, let's create a sheet here. And then again, we can name this like meeting recap. And then we go to app script. And as I mentioned, first we need to create a button here in the ribbon. So the idea will be that every time that we open the sheet, it's going to be loaded. So first we'll start with a function called onOpen. So onOpen. Then we have a const. We can call it UI. Const UI is equal to spreadsheet. And then get UI. Like get UI like this. And then we need to create a menu. So UI create menu like this, and we can give it a name of meeting recap. So basically what is going to be shown here in the ribbon. So meeting recap, and then we're going to add the button itself. So add item, and we can have like summarize and send to Slack. You can name it like that. And then the name of the function. I haven't created the function yet, but this is the name of the function that I'm going to use. So summarize and send to Slack. So that's how I'm going to name it. And then like this. Then we save this. And you can give it a name here. So I change the name to meeting recap. And if I were to refresh the sheet, you will see that it appears here. You see, meeting recap. So you can continue. Okay, so now we need to get the webhook from Slack, and also we need to get the API key from OpenAI, right? So let's start with Slack. So basically you just log in Slack, and then you go to api.slack.com/app. So as you can see, I was testing here, but you simply create app here, the new app, and then select from scratch. And then here you can get a name, so it's gonna be test 2, and then you select a workplace. So in this case, I created one just for testing, it's called test. So you select the workplace, and then you create app. And then it's going to give you some credentials here. You can ignore this, and then you go here to incoming webhooks, and you toggle this on, and then you can see here that you can create a webhook. So ideally, you just click here and add new webhook. You select one of the channels. So in this case, I created multiple channels just to testing, but let's start with this test, and then allow, and then you can see here is the webhook. So basically, you just copy this, and then you can move it here somewhere. I'm just gonna call it like Slack webhook, like that. And then we need to get the OpenAI key. So OpenAI key, and then let me look up for it. So basically you go to this URL that I'm going to share with you guys. Basically it's platform.openai.com/setting/organization/API keys. You go there, and then here you can create the API key. So you create a new key. You can call it test. And then you select a project. I don't have any, so it's gonna be default. And then you just copy the API key, and that's basically what you're going to do here, like that. Okay, done. That's basically the OpenAI key. Now we need to create two functions. One, again, to summarize everything in the sheet and make the call to OpenAI. And the second one to send that summary to Slack, right? But let's create a third one. I mean, let's create before those two functions, let's create another one that is gonna be like a main function that is gonna handle both, just to like be organized. So function, and we can call it like summarize and send to Slack. This is the same one that I have here. And then I create this here like that. And then here we need to select the sheet. So what will be the sheet? Spreadsheet, get active express sheet. And then here we need to get the active sheet. Active, get active. Actually, I forgot to add this here. Okay, get active sheet. Okay, like that. And then we need to get the range that is going to read from. Right, so in this case we can say, let's say like we wanna create like that. All of these going to be the nodes, everything in the column A. So we can set it up like that, like const data is going to be in sheet get range in column A. So everything from column A, that we get the values, get values like that. And then we can add a couple of things here to clean the data a little bit. So we flat, and then we also trim so it doesn't send spaces. So we can add it like this, and that is going to trim it. So it's gonna be node trim like that, and then we can add like this, just like a safe check. Okay, so that should trim the data, collect the data, clean it a little bit, and prepare it to be sent. And then we can add just a safe check, so we're not sending anything, like nothing empty. So we can like if data length and length is equal to 0, so something happens, right? So we can know the user that the column is empty. So get UI, and we can alert him like that. So no nodes found in column A like that, and then just returns, so the function finishes. Great. So now we need to create the summary itself, right? So we can call it like that, summary. And then here we need to pass the data to that function. So as I mentioned, we're going to create a function that is going to take care of the summary. So we can call it like generate summary. I haven't created this function, but that's the name that I'm going to have for it. And then here we pass the data, and we add some new lines, so it's organized like that. Right. Okay, so that function should take care of the summary. So we can add again another check just to make sure that there is a summary before sending something to Slack. So if there is no summary, you can also send, like, can alert the user that there is nothing to be sent to Slack. So spreadsheet, get UI, same thing that we did above, alert, and then we alert him like fail to generate summary, and then we return, so the function just finishes. And if everything is fine, if the data is fine and the summary is fine, let me move myself here, then we can send the data to Slack, right? So we are going to create another function called send to Slack, but I haven't created it yet. So that's the last function that we're going to create. So for now, just gonna be this, and then we're sending the summary, right? Right. So with that, we should send the data, the summary to Slack, but then we can also alert the user that the summary was sent, so everything was fine. So we can also send like spreadsheet, a UI like that, and then we alert him summary sent to Slack successfully. Well, actually, we can just leave it like that. Summary sent to Slack, and then we can add a couple of new lines so it looks organized, and then we can add the summary itself so the user know what was sent. So summary. And with that, we already have the main function, and this function basically what it's doing is like handling both functions that we're going to create, right? So the first one is creating the data, is collecting the data from the sheet, is cleaning the data a little bit, it's just doing a safe check that there is actually data. Then it's creating the summary, which is basically taking all the rows and adding them with a new line. And then here we are making sure that there is summary, there's actually something to be sent. And then we're sending that to Slack with this function. And then here we're letting know the user that the summary was sent correctly. So here we're going to create this first function, generate summary. So let's do it. So function, function generate summary, generate summary. And then we pass in the notes, it's receiving the notes here as an argument. And here we have a const, which is going to be the endpoint that we're going to use in OpenAI. So we can have it like URL, http //api openai.com version one chat completion. So that's basically the one that you always use when you're interacting with ChatGPT. And then, I mean, in this, when you're talking to ChatGPT, is what I mean. Then we create a payload. So payload, like that. And here we're passing the model that we're going to use. In this case, we can use GPT-4, the standard one, but you can pass whatever you want here. Also, it's just GPT-4. And then here, we need to set up the messages. So as you know, ChatGPT, we need to create two roles. One is for the system and one is for the user, so he knows what to do. So let's do that. This is a standard, so you will notice that in every implementation is always the same. So first we're going to set up the role, so role system, and then here we have the content. Then here you are professional assistant. This is pretty much the prompt that is going to be receiving before we send in the notes. That summarize meeting and call notes into concise and actionable summarizes like that. So this is pretty much the prompt that we send in before you're sending the notes, and then we're going to be sending the notes, right? So, and here we're setting the role. So role is going to be user, and then what will be the content. Then here content, we have here are my call notes, and then we can add like a new line, so it just looks good. And then we can pass the actual notes, so we can have it like this. Notes, we receive the notes here, so we're passing the notes here, and then we can add two new lines, and then we say summarize. Summarize this into a brief and clear meeting recap. Great, so that should do the job for the role. Let me format this. Okay, and then we need to add two more things. One is the max tokens that we're going to be using here. So max tokens, so we can set it up to 150. That's kind of standard. And then also temperature. This temperature part is just for how exact you want the model to be. So if you wanted to do more fancy things, it's gonna use more tokens, but I think we can have it like a middle temperature of 0.5, and that should also work. That's just standard as well. So yeah, max tokens of 150 and temperature of 0.5, and then we close here this. Then we need to pass, actually let me add some spaces here so you can see. Okay, so now we need to create the options part, and this is just to pass the API key. So cons options, and then we have it like that. So we're doing a method. We always use post methods here. So post, and then the content type is gonna be JSON, and application JSON, and then we pass a header, which is going to be the API key. So headers authorization like that, and then we pass in the API key. So there is always something before the API key, which is better like that. Yep. Then we pass OpenAI. What was the name that I set up? This one here, OpenAI. Okay, so that's it for the headers, and then we pass the payload, and we pass the payload as a JSON as well. So payload JSON stringify payload, and then I like adding this this thing that I'm going to add now, which just if there's an error, is going to show the whole error in the logs. Otherwise, it's just gonna show you just a little bit, and I don't think that's useful to debugging. So HTTPS, exceptions, true, that helps. Let me format this. Okay, that's fine. Then here we can add a try and catch just for the call itself, so we don't have any errors, and if there is an error, the function doesn't break. So we can have a try here, then catch. Then if there's in the catch, we can actually start from if there are an error, something happens, so we can log something, right? So logger.log. We can write error getting summary, so memory like that, and then here we can pass the error and then return something. Just know it should work. Okay, so now the function itself, the call itself. So let's make the call. So here we can create the response first. So response It's going to be the call URL fetch that, and then we pass the URL, and then we pass the options. Sweet. So we have that, and then we need to parse the response, so we can have it like const JSON parse like that. Then we get the response and what's in the response. So get content text like that. There needs to be a function, yeah, like that. Let me close this, and then here we're going to return the message that we got from ChatGPT. So return JSON choices. We take the first part, and then then the message, that, and then content like that, and then we trim that, so we clean it a little bit. Good. And if there's nothing, we can just add a check here, so we let the user that nothing, we didn't get a response. So no summary generated. Yeah, so that will let the user know if there was an issue with the message or something. So no summary generated. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we needed for the first function. So now we're going to create the second function, which is taking the response that we got here and we're going to send that to Slack, right? So this is going to be shorter. So function send to Slack, we already have it here, remember? Then we're receiving something, right, as an argument. So like that, and then here we're going to create a payload. So const is where we're going to be sending a payload. So we're going to send that as a JSON stringify, and then here we pass that as a text. So text. That's the summary, right? And then here we have options. It's the same logic as we created here. So now we create options. Then options, we add the method that we're going to be using. Here also we're going to use post methods. And then what will be the content type application JSON, same as above, application JSON. And then payload will be equal to payload. Yeah. Let me close this here. So again, here we're adding a try and catch just to be safe. So try, catch, here, cut, there an error, something happens. So what will happen? If there's an error, just log the error so we can see what's going on. Error sending to Slack. We got a space here and we pass the error. Sweet, so we have that done, and then we are going to make the call here. So same URL fetch, and then here we're passing the Slack, the webhook, sorry. So Slack, what will be the name that I set up here? Slack hook. That. Then we pass the options, and then that's it. And then we log something just to let the user know that everything was fine. So logger that log summary send to Slack like that, and then we close this. Let's just some formatting. So as you can see, it was not many lines of code. So we save this and let's test it out. So let's see. So if you remember, I set it up to be this one, test here. So let's see if we received something. Yeah, so I realized about two things before we do the test. I realized that here there was a typo in URL. It needs to be HTTPS instead of 2Ps. And here I also misspelled temperature. So it should be like this. So we have notes here, so we can have like, I don't know, John needs to start with project X, and then Maria is sick, and then one is taking care of Maria's tasks for the day. Yeah, tomorrow is holidays. Something like that. It's a typical call when you're in a company, So then you click here and summarize and send to Slack. So let's see if that works. So you can see that this is the summary, just as a UI alert, and then we click OK, and then we should get that on the Slack. So let's see here. So as you can see, we get the recap here. So I hope this is useful for you guys. You can use this if you're taking notes on Google Sheets, or maybe you can switch the part of Slack and send that to an email. Like if you have like an email list with all your team members, that's also helpful. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any questions. You can just write them down in the comment. I'm going to help you out with them. I also have other videos about integration with ChatGPT, so I'm going to leave one here. So if you want to continue with another tool that is also pretty useful. So yeah, guys, bye.